Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is Brad and myself, Sunset to South, episode number 5072. No, just kidding. Yeah, happy Wednesday. I don't know. I know South Carolina is very different weather from where Seattle is. We had rain this morning and yesterday for a good hour or so, and it felt like fall. What is the weather in South Carolina as of right now?
Well, first we have to acknowledge that fall for us is very different than fall for you. What you
Hmm.
call because you told me it got 70 degrees. It hit 70 degrees in your area and you were sweating.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
70 degrees is fall for us. But
Man,
it's
that's so
we hit
funny.
a we the last couple of days we've had like these late afternoon and evening storms, and I don't
Mhm,
I don't know what the deal is, but it doesn't just like a nice drizzle. Like it
mhm.
comes in, I mean, it is like 20-mile-an-hour winds, and it's like it'll rain for 15 minutes and then it's gone. But it just feels like I'm like, is this part of a hurricane that I didn't know about, or but it's just kind of normal now. But yeah, it did. I think today we were in the 80s and it was not as humid. So it actually felt really good. But that's how, I mean, that really is how different we are. Our climate is where we're located. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I crack up. You know, once winter rolls around, right? Like at the end of this month or like October, I'm really curious to see like what the differences in temperature are and just kind of like dryness and all that. I About a week from now, me and my wife will be homeowners of the current residence that we live in for my parents. My dad is moving back to the Philippines. I think I've mentioned that in past shows or whatnot, but it's coming up pretty quick. So um, I think we do plan on doing a show next Wednesday. It may be a little choppy with like just different times and whatnot. Just for our loyal viewers here, Michael Baker, thanks for coming through, and Brian LCS, hello. Um, but yeah, just a lot of things going on. Good stuff. But no, we'll definitely keep stuff going for Sunset to South at least. How's your week been so far?
pretty good. Had some. I had a listing appointment on Monday, which was
Okay,
nice.
good.
Past client that I've been talking to. Hello to Brian and Michael Baker in the chat. We appreciate you guys. Listing appointment went very well. We're planning on listing the house in 2 weeks. So I went over and kind of outlined. They don't have a ton of stuff they need to do to get it ready, and just I said, hey, if all these boxes that you've packed up everything, move them to the garage, because people, they'll look in the garage, but they want to see, they like to, people who are considering moving into your old house like to see that there's packed up boxes sitting in the garage. It shows that you're serious about making the move.
Uh-huh.
So that one's coming up, and then just kind of then just kind of been trying to stay in front of people.
Sure.
I think us doing this podcast actually is a good way for us to do that.
Hmm.
Um, when we actually see, we like sharing the information. It would be nice if somebody reached out to one of us and said, "Hey, I was watching your podcast. You mentioned something. I wanted to, blah blah blah, whatever. They have a question for us or something that we can help them with." And that's we like sharing the information. But if it ever um, thanks to comic books, I've got a client in the chat right now. So that's really nice. If this culminated in us getting some business from it, that would be great. That would be
Hmm.
like the icing on the cake. So
Sure. Yeah.
how's your
Yeah.
week been?
Very interesting. I think I kind of lost out on a deal because so currently, just this kind of little market update for mortgages. We're like at par 7% to 7.5%. What par means is like you always hear about points. So like to buy down your rate, you have to pay more, and you kind of have to do your own kind of like calculation in your head. Like, is it worth it to pay extra 3,000 to have a $50 less payment if I'm going to be here within like Hello, Danielle. I think first time I haven't seen you type in the chat before, so welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
That's one of the Facebook.
Oh,
I
cool.
think that's one of our Facebook folks. So yeah, a
Cool.
good friend of mine from way back.
Very cool. Awesome.
Yeah, I told her I would try to work out the kinks on the
Facebook
Facebook
deal.
Live video, so we know it's working. So that's awesome. Thank you,
Great.
Danielle, for being here.
All right, Danielle, what's going on? Hello from the West Coast. Not necessarily the best coast, but the West Coast. So yeah, so we're kind of at a range of 7% to 7.5% to kind of give everyone in the chat kind of an idea of where the market is for my particular company. I'm not gonna say specifically what company that is, just but if you are curious, you can hit me up in Instagram and all that good stuff. I was working with a client, and it's an interesting story because he's a friend of a friend that plays in the XFL. And he has a very particular kind of employment. So he's been playing professional football for like 9 years, whether that be NFL, USFL, what have you. And because of that, he has consistent employment. However, the older you get, it's more like you're gonna get injured. And the way that the way that XFL contracts work is it's a year by year basis. So like NFL, you're like, oh, so and so signed 5 years guaranteed for XYZ million. So it's pretty like straightforward. However, in the XFL, since they just restarted last year, there's a little risk coincided with it. But Fannie Mae, so that's the biggest investor of loans in America, they allow in some cases continuous income. So since the fact that he has 8 years of employment in kind of like this same genre of employment, even though he doesn't have a current contract, my company would be okay at least reviewing the contract to see if he would be able to qualify for the amount of money he's making as an employee of the XFL. So I learned a lot. So the company that he was working with so Brad, we always love these. It's a builder lender. So basically, the builder of these new homes is pairing up with a mortgage company, and this mortgage company is beating my rate by a full percent. So, you can be the nicest guy in the world, but money's money, right? If someone's beating you by a full percent, I basically told him, I was like, hey man, like, I would be more than happy to coach you or like ask any questions that you may have with your other lender that you don't trust him or her, sorry. But I can't beat that rate. If I were you, and just as a, kind of friendly advice, go with the rate, lock it in, and just see what happens. So you appreciate the, the feedback and all that good stuff. But, it's kind of one of those things like maybe we'll work later down the road. It was a good learning experience. At least I can kind of like, because it took a few days to kind of get an answer whether we could work with him or not. It's possible, but I mean, the money's not there. You know what I mean? So,
it would be interesting to dig a little deeper and see the fine print, because I mean, there's a chance the lender, because they're partnering with the builder, there's a chance they're looking at volume, so they can take more of a hit because they're going to do all of their business.
Yeah.
But there's also a chance that there may be some fee or something tucked away in there that maybe he doesn't realize at the time. But I've had Kevin Cooper, who is my lender here, who's been in the chat with us, on one of our shows in the past. He's told me the same thing. Like it's hard to beat some of the builders here. Some of the big builders like DR Horton has their own finance. They have their own arm of their company that handles all of their deals, and they basically give so many incentives. And unfortunately for us, because for you, they've got their own lenders, and for me, they've got their own on-site agents. I still, it doesn't cost anything for me to still represent you because they do represent the builder. But unfortunately for us, they're the ones kind of digging us out of this inventory hole.
Sure.
And so we've kind of got to, we've really got to compete with that. But, I'm working with Brian LCS and they're relocating from New York, and we've actually got our walkthrough next Tuesday. So
that's exciting. Congrats
to
both of you. Very, very, very cool.
Yeah. But yeah, it's they're offering so many incentives because basically the builders are competing with each other to get your
Sure.
business, to get a consumer's business. And oh, look who's back. Our good friend Wade is back. I haven't seen Wade in a while. In our podcast. So hey Wade.
I love
Um
it. And it
they're
cracks me up.
competing with each other to get business, so they're offering so many incentives. I had a buyer who built a home, and they were given $10,000 to do whatever they want. So they bought their rate down with it. They already had a
Mm-hmm.
pretty good rate using the builder, but they bought their rate down with that. So there's a lot of incentives out there.
Yeah, and it's okay. It's like one of those things, like that lender's probably going to be able to only and that lender's probably only going to be able to work with that one time, and that's kind of their strategy anyway. And you're right. Like a lot of lenders that can have an amazing rate, they're just trying to buy the market, and it's not a bad thing. It's just that's their strategy, and then they'll get out of the market, and that's when I can come in and offer a better rate or whatever. So yeah, it is what it is. It wasn't too big of a deal, but it was nice to actually be able to kind of go through his income kind of like situation, because he was kind of unsure about it, and then also it was nice to be able to maybe he has some other pretty famous friends, so we'll see. And that was a California loan or home, and actually no, he's relocating from San Diego to Arizona. So the nice thing is, I let him know. I was like, oh, I do loans in Arizona, California, Oregon, Washington, Alaska, Colorado, Nevada, Hawaii. We're one of a few lenders that does like hometown lending in Hawaii. So anyone in the chat, if you guys are any type of financing you guys need, you can reach out to me, and I can definitely help you out. But enough of
Awesome.
that.
Well,
Enough of that,
great.
and yeah.
I will say, great job. You handled the customer service portion of that. That was textbook. Your response
Yeah.
was textbook.
Thank
And
you.
you may not get the initial one, but like you said, I mean, there's opportunity out there. You're
Yeah.
bound to hit something big. I feel it coming, Ferd. You're bound
Thanks,
to
man.
hit something big. There's
Yeah.
something's coming down the pipeline for you. So
We'll see. I was going to say something before your presentation that kind of coincide with real estate and kind of what people that, if you aren't a homeowner, I think it's a good thing to kind of realize just a fact that's always going to stay consistent with home buying and all that. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but
that's perfect.
just a
Because
real quick market update. What's that?
I actually added a slide like real estate news where we could kind of plug that in there.
Oh,
So
okay.
then it like headlines or
Cool. It's just,
something. So
it's just a quick little like video that just made me like, it's always run true, I think, for both of us, especially on
awesome.
your end. Yeah. So you'll
Very
like
cool.
it. But yeah, real quick, just I use CNBC. It's always like, I'm not trying to tout it. We're not sponsored by them. It's just an easy website for me to use. But the market overall was okay today. It wasn't great. Dow was down $70. Nasdaq was up around 40. Some interesting news coming out of the IPO market, which if you see a lot of deals or mergers or IPOs coming out, that's a good thing. What that means is that companies are like, okay, we have investors that we can raise money from. We want to grow. We see growth opportunities. However, we just need money from outside investors to get, to grow from a $1 billion company to a $10 billion company. So when you're looking at just overall like economy or just how business is going around the world, think about seeing IPOs and mergers and acquisitions going on. That means there's good growth in the economy. So I kind of talked about this on our Instagram page on a reel. ARM is going IPO. And this, I think this kind of bodes true for you, Brad, specifically because you're very interested in artificial intelligence, correct?
Yes.
So ARM Holdings is a semiconductor company. They're always like at the top 5 of like chips, whether it be in iPhones, in a Samsung, what have you. They always have their products within that kind of sector. With that said, the fact that they're going to IPO, I think again, it's value of the company's 54 billion, all that good stuff. It's a good indicator that this AI thing is here and it's only going to grow. And if you want an opportunity to get in a more position, well-founded, I just don't remember, a well-positioned company, I wouldn't buy ARM when the IPO comes out, because typically what happens when an IPO goes out, investors get, it's kind of FOMO. It's kind of like FOC for you comic book nerds out there. The stock will go up quite exponentially, and then it'll settle down. People, insiders will make their money, what have you. But just keep an eye on this if you're interested in IPOs or just AI in general. It'll be a fascinating new subject to look at, and it'll give you guys something new to kind of think about. What do you think about this, Brad?
That's really interesting. That's and I so you say when you see more of this type of thing, it's a positive.
With this,
yeah, and your response, but yeah, that's gas is high. It is, yeah. That's so when you see more of this type of stuff, it's a positive sign for the economy. Is that, did I hear you say that?
Okay. Yeah, because like, you don't want to go IPO during 2008, 2009, right? That's kind of a barometer, because everyone's holding their money tight. But if you see lots of deals and mergers, it's saying to businesses and corporate America that there's growth potential. We need to merge. We need to get to that next level. And there's an appetite as well for risk aversion, or for risk, to take on risk, to buy stock. And this is a very big company. This reminds me a little bit of MasterCard in 2006. Just from experiences of a major company going IPO versus like I think I've heard of that company about a year ago. And it'll make more sense kind of with our kind of slides. I got a little bit of haterade for slides today. I gotta admit, yours is probably a lot more fun than mine, but yeah, let's get into
yours actually sounds more entertaining than mine does. Oh. So I was excited to. In fact, I use that. I like the way you titled it on the thumbnail.
Yeah, I was trying to. It's a little clickbait, a little bit of clickbait for all you kids that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if anybody in the chat if y'all have questions, let us know. And actually, Wade, I think that was a well-timed question you had for the update that Ferd just gave us, because that you piqued my interest when you said positive for the economy. We're looking. There's so much bad news. We're just looking for like those that glimmer of hope. That stuff is that stuff is improving. So I appreciate that update.
Yeah, it's a little, it's a little bit like, if you're, and it's also another thing too, is like, if you're worried about investing, or if you're worried about, taking on something that you kind of feel uncomfortable about, like, kind of look over it. Don't try and think about things too much. Just look at the headlines. I mean, I just popped up in CNBC, and with my, moderate knowledge of how corporate mergers work, I know that IPOs and mergers are a good thing for corporate America seeing growth in the economy. So, it's just signs to look out for if you ever like just kind of like worry about money type stuff. So, let's see here. Where are my slides go? Okay, so topics we're covering today: the CEOs that are no good, in my opinion. A little bit West Coast to East Coast real estate. Your tip of the day, and then Brad's the more you know. And like always, I did not look at Brad's slides. I don't know if he looked at mine, but I definitely
I did not.
Okay, cool. So I'm trying to take it down to 3 because I really want to concentrate more on Brad's section of the show. And it helps, I think, kind of us talk about like just a few stocks versus like 6. So here are the 3 that we're going to talk about today. So, oh shoot, I forgot the ticker symbol updates here. But anyway, in any case, we're going to start off with Coinbase. First, I'm going to ask like if you know what Coinbase is, and then we'll kind of go from there. So first question, Brad, do you know what Coinbase is?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
So in kind of layman's terms, it's essentially a website you can go to and trade different types of coin, a digital coin. So your Ethereums, your Bitcoins, what have you. When I look at companies to invest in, I want to know who's part of the company. And I kind of do like a little background check on them and just, I kind of look at what I can see, right? And then, as the company evolves and you kind of look at their deals, you kind of make assumptions from there. But this company was started by Brian Armstrong. He's the current chairman and CEO of Coinbase. And he made a pretty big name for himself during, the kind of the digital coin boom, or whatever you want to call it. And Coinbase was one of the few companies that, when people were saying like, I want to buy Bitcoin or I want to buy Ethereum, all these different, or Dogecoin, what have you, you had to have basically an engine to do that. And Coinbase was the kind of like the Charles Schwab of trading digital coin, because you couldn't do it at Charles Schwab, you couldn't do it at these other brokerages. So these new kind of FX type of brokerages came about, and Coinbase was kind of the Cadillac, I guess, if you will. So why I think the CEO of Coinbase is not doing such a good job is kind of, if you go all the way down here, and I'm kind of honing on to like one specific thing.
Did I see that he a former engineer for Airbnb? I thought I saw there was a glance at something that said former engineer for Airbnb.
Yes, he was.
Not that
Yes, no, you are 100% correct. He is
I
a
saw
former.
Airbnb and I
Yeah.
kind of zoomed.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're exactly right. And I guess you kind of, I guess the nice thing about that is that he probably has experience in like how like a digital type of company or tech company kind of works, right? But this is where I think his ineptitude, I guess, if you call it. And here's the other thing too. This guy, I mean, he just had an IPO come out like 2 years ago. And so when you get into a new industry, like for example, like cryptocurrency is like 10 to 15 years old. I mean, it's a brand new asset class. So there's a lot of uncertainties with it. It's unregulated, right? That's the whole point of cryptocurrencies. So if you and again, IPOs are a little scary when it's a company like this because there's no real establishment of like more than 10 to 15 years. The company started in 2012, and 9 years later they have an IPO, which is great for a tech company that's hot. However, this is a brand new asset class, so it's a little bit scary. And I mean, the stock went crazy. Let's take a look at the stock. Here, I'm going to go to a good old. And obviously, a lot of things went pretty crazy during the pandemic, because of low rates and all that stuff. But so I mean, this company was up. I mean, look at that. 208, wow. $319. If you bought it on 10/31/2021, you're down quite a bit. You're down to $81 a share. That's not necessarily the reason I think he's not doing a good job. If you kind of scroll down to current days, and I kind of use a current day kind of deal to assess whether these CEOs are doing a good job or not. March 2023, Coinbase receives a Wells notice from the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, signaling that the SEC intended to begin an enforcement action over Coinbase's staking products. That's not the real killer. This is the real killer. In July 2023, CEO Brian Armstrong stated that this SEC demand Coinbase stop trading all assets excluding Bitcoin. So imagine going to, here's comic book nerd talk again. Imagine going to your local comic book store, and the only comic book that your store can sell is Avengers. They can't sell anything else. So why would you go to Coinbase? Why would you go to that comic book store? Because you want the variety, and we're not talking about entertainment. This is like real money. So
right.
If they can only trade one particular coin, that takes away from a lot of different revenue streams. I didn't really dive into
exactly. So you can only buy and sell Bitcoin there.
Correct.
Is that
Correct.
The trading arm was the appealing thing. That was the interesting part about it.
correct.
Is
The cross kind of like, oh, I can go to this, da 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 da.
I'm not liking this anymore. I want to buy this instead,
Yeah,
and just kind of move it around a little bit.
yeah. Now it's not currently in effect, but they're going to court, so it's kind of like, it's like kind of in a holding pattern right now. But if for whatever reason, I mean, if I'm an investor, or you know, if I'm a customer of Coinbase, I'm gonna try and get my coin out of there as soon as possible. But there's other things I've kind of gone out on. It's kind of a broad thing, but there's been times where it's been kind of difficult to get your assets out of Coinbase. And so imagine going to the bank and you're like, oh, they're like, no, you can't take the $100 out of your wallet, or 100,000 out of your wallet. And there's just been little things like that Coinbase, I think, if you're going to be a full service derivative institution, you should be able to have a liquid kind of process to get money out of your deals. So, yeah, man, what do you, is that a concerning, is that a concern? Like if you were to go into, yeah, I mean, like if you were to go into trading, digital coin, would that concern you?
Sure, and it mirrors everything that you've I was reading Wade's
Yeah.
that's interesting, Wade. So Wade, I'm curious, your next comment, you said started to get nervous for a bit. It's time for me to start my company.
That's awesome. I love it.
I really, I would encourage you to do that if you're if you're thinking about it. But it mirrors exactly what you've always said, or what's always, when you share something, the slightest bit of bad news makes people get in a frenzy, and they start they start moving away, they start backing up. So the same would be true here. I mean, if just the notion that they could lose it should strike fear in the hearts of people, their customers.
Mhm.
So what's your alternative now? What do you do if you want to do this? I
If you
mean, they're
want to
not
trade,
the only they're not the only company, are they?
I think you can use MetaMask. You can use, yeah. So there's more so since Coinbase kind of like that was the first to market, right? Or one of the first to market. Now there's ways to do it on E-Trade or Charles Schwab. So there are alternatives to trade more different digital coin. However, like the ones that you want to use, and I don't do a lot of like digital coin trading, but I have used MetaMask before, and you can do various types of different coins on those different trading desks, or whatever you want to call them. So yeah, if I was a Coinbase client, I'm like, I'm pulling my money out and putting it in MetaMask, or I'm gonna just leave the market in general.
Do you have any insight on why that verdict came down on them?
The tough thing with these companies is it's so the SEC comes in and they kind of put the rules down, but it's an unregulated asset, right? I mean, as far as like, there's no governing body for digital coin, is what I mean. Um, but it is considered an asset. I guess to answer your question, I didn't go into huge depth about why the SEC was gonna put a hold on it, but I gotta imagine it's because of liquidity issues, meaning trades weren't getting settled in time and people couldn't pull their money out, and so the SEC is gonna have to go in there because they're like, well, they're trying to convert their digital coin into American currency or whatever currency, and they can't pull it out. We gotta step in and do something about that. That's the only assumption I have, but it's been like he's just kind of sitting on it, and it's just kind of concerning. Let's see here. Wait, I want to get to these real quick. I've seen the effect the economy had on the homeowner. The price of water heaters had tripled since 2020. You might be getting over that hump. And I agree, because I think, you have a certain price at point, and then you're like, and all those people that bought in 2020, 2021, they're not the same consumer in 2022, 2023. And so with the increase in interest rates, I mean, personally, like, I don't want to buy a water heater right now, or I don't want to buy like copper. I'm going to go for the next leg down. And then the demand for that higher end product is going to also oversupply, right? And then Wade also says, I was getting nervous it was going to point getting to a point where customers were going to say, "Fuck it, I'll do it myself." And I think that's true too. I mean, I got a quote for a shower. It was $4,000. I was like, you know what? I don't need a $4,000 shower. I'll spend the $1,000. It's not going to be the greatest, but when I have money down the road, maybe I can kind of fix it. I just need a workable shower. And I think that's the choice that people are trying to make. I think you can even see it in YouTube videos. I mean, there's a lot of DIY videos of professionals going to YouTube and doing their own DIY videos. Do you do any DIY yourself?
Do I?
Yeah.
I do not trust myself, man. I get nervous about that. For somebody, I tell people all the time when we do home inspections and we have a professional there, I'm like, I'm gonna ask as many questions as you are because I'm not super handy.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate, and I'm a big fan of let the expert be the expert. You know, you
Yeah.
be the expert in your field, I'll be the expert in mine, and let's send each other some business. You know,
Mhm.
it's I'm just scared I'll get halfway through it and just kind of give up, and then you end up costing yourself more money because you've messed it up worse than it was if you'd have hired somebody in the first place. But I could see you being able to tackle that stuff, man. You seem to be pretty good at that.
Oh, thanks. I kind of sucked in the beginning, but you just have to take your time. And Wade, I did actually hire a plumber to install because I wanted a higher spout or shower head, and so the guy came in. Yeah, he put in new piping and extended the spout, and it works great. So we're wifey's happy and all that good stuff. So, yeah, it's yeah, and great comments, Wade. I think we really appreciate those comments there. Really good stuff, man.
Yeah, awesome.
Because it's really good to, I think, talk about that. Because like Wade works in kind of the construction kind of era, and I don't or area, and I don't obviously I work with those type of like builders and stuff, but like I don't know how it affects them directly. Give me 1 second, Brad. I'll
Sure.
be right back.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, that always fascinates me. When I get I get uh, go do these walkthroughs with my clients, and we're doing if they're doing new construction and they've got we go meet the superintendent for the neighborhood in at the house, and we walk the house and we talk about all the features, and those guys always fascinate me because they're so knowledgeable in that area, and I'm just like, it's just really interesting to see how all this comes together, because a lot of times when you meet with your clients to walk through a new construction house, I mean, you're starting with dirt and then there's studs, and I just like kind of really get in there and look to see like how are they putting all this I mean, it's just amazing that you take this and make a structure that's livable, and but to kind of get to see before they put the drywall and the how they run the plumbing and all that stuff. It's just really cool to see all that stuff. So I'm fascinated by people who can do that. You tackled like the hardest thing you could tackle, though. Like if you mess up the bladder, like water, you're going to have water everywhere. Like for the shower. I mean, that's like a really ballsy one to take on.
Well, we'll see in a year or 2 years when, like, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, there's a hole in my,
there's black mold everywhere.
I know. That was my fear, actually. Like when I was doing stuff, I was taking stuff out. I was like, this shower hasn't been done since '92, and so it was liberating, to be able to do kind of like the demo part, but at the same time, it was very scary of like, because like I always hear horror stories of like, I pulled out a wall and then there was like mold everywhere, and so I had to like sell the house, or I don't know, something like that. That was what I was really, really worried about.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, thanks, Wade. We appreciate that, man. That's great info.
Yeah, and chat. I mean, keep it coming, man. Like this is what we're here for. Keep we'll try and answer your questions as best as possible, and call me out too. Like sometimes I'm not the biggest expert on everything. And Brad, you can call me out too, man. I appreciate it all.
I trust you too much.
So MicroStrategy. This is a very, I don't know. I haven't heard of a company doing this before, but I'm sure they have. So MicroStrategy. Oh, first off, have you heard of MicroStrategy before?
I have not.
Okay. So they got pretty famous again during the kind of pandemic, Bitcoin like kind of era. Um, the company's founded by Michael J. Saylor, and he's been on a lot of interviews, all that good stuff, and he's kind of a different dude. This company's been around for a very long time, and they've kind of changed their business practices throughout. It originally started out as a consulting, or sorry, as a business intelligence cloud service based company, and doing really great. Let's see here. I'm trying to forward. They're basically they sell services as software type of, so they will contract out services for different companies, and it's specifically cloud type based companies. However, something changed in 2020. MicroStrategy invested 250 million in Bitcoin as a treasury asset, which at the time was a great strategy because Bitcoin was going to the moon. However, they kept buying Bitcoin throughout 2020, 2021, and 2022. And they had substantial purchases at this point in April or September of 2022. Well, that's why I think he's doing a really bad job. Do you know how much? Oh, sorry. Bitcoin was at its peak in 2021.
Yeah, I
And
remember that the phrase. Yeah, Bitcoin to the the to
to
the
the moon,
moon.
right?
Yeah,
And they were making they were making big purchases in 2021. However, at the start of 2022 or September of 2022, Bitcoin was trading around 19,200. Now, it's not, you don't have to be a CEO or like a money guy to realize that if you bought Bitcoin at 60,000 a coin in 2021 and you still held on to those coins into 2022 at 19,000, you're what it's called holding the bag. So basically this service as a software based company turned into a Bitcoin holding company. So the success of the company coincides with the success of Bitcoin. So he's basically just sitting on his hands hoping that Bitcoin goes up to 62,000. Now, his dollar cost average I don't know because I didn't read the actual holdings and the worth of it, but to go from I'm just going to basically be a Bitcoin trader versus I'm going to grow my business, how it just doesn't make sense to me. And if I was an investor in the company, I'd be really upset because I'm guessing if you're an investor in this company, you weren't wanting to have the company buy loads of Bitcoin. You're wanting them to grow their service as a software side business, correct? I mean, it'd be like Brad going using his marketing and his networking skills and whatnot to go from real estate to selling comic books. I don't know. It's kind of like that. Like it's a completely different strategy, and I wouldn't come to Brad for. Well, I guess I may come to Brad for comic books. More so, I would come to Brad as the realtor. You know what I mean? So just a really weird kind of strategy into growing your company. Am I correct?
yeah. I mean, I understand adjusting to the times, but they
Mhm.
completely pulled out of what they were known for. It looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they do like still MicroStrategy type based service as a software, but the majority of the assets that the company does is all in Bitcoin, and like people were pissed. You want to take a look at the chart for MicroStrategy? Let's take a look.
Yeah, yeah. And what is Bitcoin selling for now?
Bitcoin's around 25,000. It's gone up from the 18. It was actually at 14 at one point. Um, but I mean, look at this.
And he was
This
buying for 60.
And he was up there around like the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. And I mean, he was right. I mean, his stock was trading at 1,034 a share, but I mean, why put all of your assets, why would you put your company's assets all into one asset class? And
Right.
I guess shareholders were happy up here, but they're sure
Can
as
you
hell
share
not.
that? I
Oh,
don't
I'm
see it
sorry.
on the.
I'm sorry. So
There we
this
go.
is, I mean,
Oh
the
wow.
the stock was doing great, right? But infinite growth, right? Infinite growth. Um,
Wow.
and here it didn't even top out. I mean, he was topped out up here.
Yeah.
But I mean, and if you do a comparison, let's see if we can do a little comparison here. I can't really do it here, but if I were to add, I can't do it. Oh, here we go. So Bitcoin. I mean, it doesn't exactly coincide with Bitcoin. However, it's pretty close. So the green is Bitcoin and the blue is MicroStrategy. So they may have bought here like a buttload, and then it's just. But if you can kind of see here, they coincide like kind of together. So, um, yeah, I just think it's a really bad call, and I'm glad I didn't have MicroStrategy. I was actually shorting MicroStrategy a little bit here and there, just based off of Bitcoin, kind of moves here and there. So, um,
Wow.
anyway, and then last but not least, my probably least favorite company the past 2 or 3 years, the AMC. Um, this CEO is just a goddamn joke. I mean, I'm sorry. Like so let's see, AMC. I mean, this AMC was the meme stock, right? I mean, there was people saying that AMC could go to like $200 a share based on, like shorts and all this stuff. And here's the thing about
So this was after. Sorry to interrupt, but
that's
so
okay.
this was after the GameStop thing. People jumped on AMC then. Like
Yeah, they saw AMC because it was heavily shorted by a bunch of Wall Street guys, and that was like, this is the next GameStop, and it worked for a long time. But here's the thing with trying to do stuff like that: you have to have a lot of people pumping up that stock, and then you have to have a lot of people not selling the stock to 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 uh, to deliver a manageable amount of demand and supply, right? Um, the CEO of this company, and I mean, I think about it now. When I go to AMC theater, they're not full. On a Friday, Saturday night. I think people just don't want to go to the movie theaters as much anymore. It's they're closing more stores, or they're closing more theaters, and I think there's still a general fear of people going to movie theaters. Honestly, I mean, what do you think?
yeah, and it's a shame. I mean, I prefer if I go, I prefer Regal
Mm-hmm.
to the Regal theaters around here are a little better than AMC theaters. And to me, as much as the visually, I also want the sound to be really well done. Like
Mm-hmm.
if the picture is great and the sound is not, like, I just want to be immersed in what I'm watching. And I love going to I love going to the movies. I the it is a major trade-off, the convenience for the experience.
Mm-hmm.
But some people don't weigh the experience the same as they once did. I think the convenience outweighs the experience several times over for most people. But I mean, I really do like going. In fact, we've got an independent drive-in theater here. So you can go
Those are
see, you
full.
can like, yeah, you can go see. They always do a double header. It's like $10, 10 or $12 to see two movies.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in your car and you tune in your radio and do that. And then they've got a concession stand that does like fresh popcorn, and they do burgers and stuff. And it's
Oh, that's
just like
awesome.
it feels like you're stepping back in time.
Yeah, and
If
that's
it
an
weren't
experience that
so,
I like.
yeah,
Yeah,
same. So
that's
do
awesome.
you? I mean, did you like going to the movies at one time, or
The
do you
drive-ins
like it
really got
now?
me. I go with my cousin-in-laws. But it's only because it's their thing and the boys like it. I just don't get, like, I'd rather go to a baseball game, you know.
Mm.
I don't get the experience as much because, like, here's one thing about a movie that I don't like. I can't talk to anybody the whole time. And you have to really get me engaged into a movie that I really want to see for me to just look at it the whole time. I mean, like, I was watching Spider-Verse, and I just, I don't know if I have ADHD or what, but like I couldn't watch it the whole time, and I wanted to talk with people. So that's one thing that just personally, like, it really takes, like, a really, like the last movie that I was like, oh man, I have to see it. I can remember is probably Black Panther, and I know that's pretty recent. The second one, obviously, and then like Endgame's the only one that I was like, oh, I have to see it, like, in the movie theater. But I don't. And maybe it's just age. But no, I dig the drive-ins, man. The drive-ins are like the best, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, real quick. So AMC went to $60 a share during the pandemic. During the pandemic, a movie theater going to $60 a share, a valuation of 10 to 15 billion during a
Mm.
pandemic. So what that means basically is the amount of people going to see a movie theater. So, like, the actual, like, number one way to make revenue in your company is at like a 12th of what it was prior to. And you're telling me that it's worth $15 billion or $15 billion market value.
Right.
Um, it was just the hysteria of, trying to find the next GameStop. And this guy who, Adam Aaron, he's the CEO of AMC. He came out and he was engaging with the ape investors, kind of saying, like, we're going to beat the big guy and all this stuff. And this is what really just, like, upset me with him. So he basically did second, third, fourth prints of
Mm.
stock. And you know what that does to supply? It increases supply and demand goes down. And so when you have a stock that's $60 a share, you can issue more stock, do second, third, fourth prints, right? And you can attract more investors. However, the supply increases, and with supply, simple microeconomics, if supply increases, demand usually does as well, or it's met, right? But there's no more demand over supply. And whenever it comes to anything, when it comes to business, you have to have fundamentally demand over supply. You just have to have that because your product is gonna be worth more to people, right? Well, same thing with stocks. So whenever a company announces that they're going to do a issuance of stock to raise money for the company to invest in the company, right? Um, the stock goes down, and he was saying he was going to use the proceeds to invest back into a failing industry. In all honesty, right? There's just not as many people going out to movie theaters. Like, there's the days of $1 billion movies, just whether it's the writers' strikes or people are just like, I mean, I'm gonna spend $50 to go in the movies, that type of thing. It's just not there anymore, in my opinion. And the numbers
Well,
have
with
shown in
these
the past 2 years.
and these streaming services are doing quality
Yeah.
production. I mean, I've seen good shows on a lot of the different streaming services.
Mhm.
Amazon Prime has there's several shows on Amazon Prime that I've really enjoyed. You get some hits and some misses, but for the most part, they've really stepped up their game and what they're able to produce now.
Yeah, and it's like, again, it's another reason why people aren't going to the movie theaters. And so when you take away the whole ape, diamond hands type of uh, stock trade, your stock's going to sink from $60 a share to $8.62. This wasn't actually the lowest amount, but just what really upsets me about AMC is that the CEO issued stock, suckered investors into it, and I don't know what he did with the money, but he definitely didn't use it in a way that's grown the company to get it from $30 a share back up to 60. And I mean, the Ryan's on the wall. Like, why would you invest? Like, would you invest, like, if you had let's say you're a millionaire and you're like, I have choices between AI, tech in general, let's say Costco, or movie theaters. Like movie theaters is going to be or I don't know, is movie theaters going to be near the top or near the bottom of those four?
It would have to be at the bottom. You know, you
And
go with what's hot, you know.
yeah, and why would you pick that at the bottom?
Well, for the reason unless he's able to come up, what's the new idea in movie theaters? What is their
Mm-hmm.
they've got to come up what the old way is not working. And I'll tell you what they're banking on. I mean, they got lucky, I guess, with that just a dark horse success of Barbie was,
Mm-hmm.
had people going. I don't know of I mean, I don't know a time when I've seen more people take pictures of themselves going to a
To the
movie than
movie
I
theater.
have
Yeah.
with Barbie. But the
Yeah.
next big one, Taylor Swift live, is there. She's doing a live concert that's on. You can view it live in the movie theater.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to the movie, they sell tickets. So maybe they're banking that maybe these movie theaters are thinking, okay, we're at least going to open it up to this. I know Metallica did one.
That's
Metallica did a live
that,
concert.
yeah, and that's a really actually cool idea. And it's like the other thing too is like you're when you're in a movie theater, you're kind of at the you're relying on the content to be great. So you don't have any control over the content unless AMC was going to come up with the AMC like movies channel and then create their own content and become a content company. I would get that. No, this guy's like, no, we're gonna take we're gonna take down the big guy. We're gonna take down Wall Street, and I'm gonna raise 450 million from my company. Probably took quite a bit of money for that,
Yeah.
right? That's just
Yeah.
how it
Well, I
works.
lost the receipts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's yeah, I don't know, but anyway, yeah. So those are my three kind of companies that I would say the CEOs are really struggling to satisfy investors, and they're doing I won't say shady stuff, but just different type of things. So again, like when you're investing in a company, I always say obviously look at the company itself, and like if the business plan makes sense to you, don't try and overcomplicate. If you don't understand it, then don't just walk away. But dig a little bit about the CEO and what he's done in the past, or he or she has done in the past, and if you agree with it. If you don't, then it's probably a good idea to either walk away from that stock or don't even invest in it at all. So, what do you think about that, Brad?
Yeah, that was very interesting. That was yeah, it's really cool. And if whether you're watching live or watching on the replay, stay tuned. We may get slapped with a defamation character lawsuit.
Yeah, yeah,
So
seriously.
if we start a GoFundMe, please be
Yeah,
generous.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I think
What's
it's
what
like super intriguing, man. That's really interesting.
what's the saying? Any press is good press. Is that right? Is
I,
that what they say?
yeah. Hey, the Peacock hasn't gotten on to us about my segment yet.
Yeah,
The more you know. So
that's
hey,
right.
we're flying well under the radar, I'm sure.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Once we get to that 10,000 subscribers, though, I think I'll tilt our
we'll
back
be
a
in,
little bit.
yeah,
Yeah,
we'll have to shake things up a little bit. But yeah,
exactly.
that was really intriguing, man. I really enjoyed that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I promise to maybe bring next week the three best CEOs that I think
There we go.
and that kind of stuff. So, before I get into the West Coast real estate, real quick, I kind of was alluding to it earlier, but for the people that are kind of on the fence about buying a company, or sorry, buying real estate in general, here's the thing that you're always gonna have to remember, especially nowadays. People are always gonna want to buy. It doesn't matter if rates are 17%. It doesn't matter if they're going to be 1% or where they're at currently 7 to 7.5%. There's always going to be someone that wants to buy a house. And especially with the kind of the way the economy is right now, we're like in a recession, unrecession is what I've heard too. People have tons of equity. Supply is at all-time lows. And in fact, applications are all-time lows because I think of fatigue and intimidation. But don't listen to that. Think about your situation and the actual like need and curiosity of wanting to buy a house, because once rates start to go down, that supply is going to tinker up a little bit, I think. However, there's going to be more demand coming in than supply. So, if you're in the market, talk to Brad. Just have two or he'll send you a couple listings just for the hell of it. Talk to me. It doesn't matter if you're not. I mean, even if you're not in a state that I don't work in, like I'll send you an estimate based off of like the rates here, and it just kind of gives you an idea, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, like this $250,000 house at 7.5% is so much. I send you the monthly payment, it might equal the amount of rent you're paying now anyway. So just something to think about. When I saw that video, it really spoke to me. So I just kind of wanted to bring that to the audience. And Brad, I'm sure you think the same thing every day, first thing in the morning.
Yeah, and it's what I've spent the last year doing. And there again, the reason we started doing this was to there was so much negative information out there, and we just wanted to provide something. It's every area is different, and I'll share some stats. I mean, that show some positive signs coming up here, but yeah, it's just educating people and talking to people. Have that conversation. It doesn't hurt anything. It doesn't hurt your credit. It doesn't cost you anything. If Ferd works up an estimate for you, a quote for you, for rates, and it's going to be more accurate than like these online calculators that you use. I've seen those consistently be really off. So just have a conversation. I mean, we're not going to hold you to anything. You don't have to. I can't make you buy a house. I can't. Ferd can't make you do a loan. It's more so for information for yourself.
Yeah. And then, maybe we can recommend you, if we can't help you out, we can recommend you someone that can, if you do need to go that route. So use us, I guess. So I popped up the price point this time. I hope I didn't throw you off here, but a little West Coast real estate for you. $2 million in the Rainier Beach area gets you a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. I did have this up, but I can't find it anymore. But this is kind of near the water, and it's kind of in an older neighborhood, kind of where it's close to where kind of Nirvana used to live, or Kurt Cobain used to live.
Okay.
And if you don't know who Nirvana is, shame on you. Google Teen Spirit. I'm sure everyone in the chat knows who Nirvana is. But yeah, $2 million, you get you a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. It's actually a pretty nice house. The interior was done, but it's only one level because of the views.
Right.
Yeah, man. What'd you think about this?
That's interesting. I found this is still my favorite segment. I'm just so intrigued at how different it is. But that's how many square feet is that? Do you remember?
I think it's 2,200 square feet. 22 to maybe 3. So it's on a pretty big lot, and it's just kind of like, it's not this. It's more like that kind of deal. So yeah,
that's cool. Yeah. It beats the townhome with no garage.
Yeah, there is a 2-car garage in this as well. So
there you go.
Oh my god, a monster. All right.
Yeah, so
go for it.
This is actually on Lake Murray.
It's beautiful.
It's a 3,200. So Lake Murray, if you're not on Lake Murray, so it's in Lexington, South Carolina, a suburb of Columbia, is the area that I kind of grew up in. And it's on the lake, this large man-made lake. So this house is actually, you can see, if you look past the stairs to the right, you'll see that's their covered dock out on the lake. So this house is actually situated on the lake. 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, 3,200 square feet, relatively new house, 2-car garage on the lake. If you don't live on the lake, you want to know people who live on the lake, because that's where, when it's hot out, that's where people spend a lot of their time on the weekends. So it's a really good. I was tempted to do another slide just so I could include pictures of the inside, because it was like, I mean, every room's got, of course, it's got huge windows on the back side of this, because every room you've got a view of the big water in the lake. So It's yeah, it's really really cool.
I gotta
But
imagine too, it's a lot easier to keep up a lake house versus a one on like the coast or like saltwater.
yeah,
Yeah, so it
yeah,
makes them more right. So
yeah.
that's
So
cool.
yeah,
It's a beautiful house, man.
yeah. It's all yeah. It's that's my favorite segment though. It's really cool. We were pretty sure that there were a lot of some pretty significant differences
Uh-huh.
in the two areas that we
Yeah.
live, and each week we've kind of shown that.
And even just like the art, like the look of the homes too. It's forget the size. It's like there's just I don't know for you, but for me, like when you show a South Carolina house, I don't take this the wrong way. It's just the time of the movie, but I think of Interview with the Vampire, like those kind of like those plantation homes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know why, but like whenever I watch that movie, I think of the plantation homes that
Well, it
were
is. It
out.
is.
So
I mean, it's that southern
yeah.
kind of feel, with porches and
Hmm.
rocking chairs and all that's all that kind of stuff. I mean, you think about, it's we definitely have a style for here. So
Sure.
yeah,
It's great. It's different too. We don't get that here in Seattle. So very cool. Credit to the day is kind of a general one. Just curious, everyone in the chat, have you looked in the mirror? Do you know your credit score and are you concerned with it? Or are you just kind of like, okay, that's about right? Just kind of a general question, because I hope that people take some of our advice. But I think that's really important to know what your credit score is. And if you have questions about it, let us know. But just kind of a little, I wouldn't say test, but just kind of a checkup on people. Brad, do you have the ability? And if so, do you know what your credit score is and are you concerned with it?
I got a pretty good idea. There's some things I would like to pay off.
Sure.
Um, but but yeah, that's one of the benefits I think for a really good lender is that type of advice. I see. Have you ever seen? I don't know if I mean I'm sure you guys have this, but these companies that will like they'll help your debt by negotiating and it wrecks your credit. People think they're doing a good thing and it actually costs a ton of money to do it. These companies charge a ton of money to do it and they wreck your credit because they're not paying your debt off. They're negotiating
Amount.
a settlement amount
Hmm.
basically. So your credit gets dinged for that. So don't whatever you do, don't do that stuff. A good lender will tell you like, "Hey, focus on this." And because they want to help you get there's no better story than sitting at a closing with your realtor and your lender and knowing what it took to get there, knowing that, hey, we weren't approved a year ago and we kind of took the steps that Ferd gave us and we were able to get there. And it's just so much more satisfying to to do it that way. So don't do these credit companies. Don't pay them. Take that money and pay down some things, pay off some stuff, and don't whatever you do. If you don't hear anything else, don't be late on anything. Don't
It's the easiest thing to avoid, honestly. Yeah.
30-day lates will kill you.
Yeah. And the other thing too about those debt consolidation like settlement companies, let's say you owe 20 grand and they settle it down to 5, you get a 1099 for 15 grand at the end of the year. So you're getting taxed on it one way or the other. You're still going to pay for it. And on top of that, you can settle if you really do need to get to that point. And everyone's situation is different, right? If you need to settle on your debt, you can call those companies and settle on it. It's not one of those like they're just being the middleman because 90% of America doesn't want to deal with creditors. They're just doing the hard part,
Right.
so if it ever gets to that, and again, everyone's different, but that's stuff you can avoid and I hope you guys do too. So, and Brad's the more you know, brought to
All
you
right. So
by ABC.
I added a slide. I saw a
Okay.
couple of headlines that I wanted to share, and I think we'll use this because this is this is good for us both to talk about
Mhm.
for our area. But I saw this. This came through National Association of Realtors. I get an email update from them. So just a couple of bullet points I wanted to share. So breaking news in real estate: pending home sales increased 0.9% in July, rising for the second consecutive month. The Northeast and Midwest, I thought this was interesting. The Northeast and Midwest posted most monthly losses, while sales in the South and West grew.
Hmm.
So, little positive note. I mean, we've definitely seen it here. Single, and then the second item that I saw, news bulletin that I saw: single family existing home sales prices climbed in approximately 60% of the measured metro areas in the second quarter. So they've, of the 221 areas that they typically look at, they took the data from 128 of those areas and saw a 60% increase in existing home sale prices. So the national median single family existing home price declined 2.4% from 1 year ago to $402,600.
Hmm.
So that was kind of interesting. I didn't but when you're factoring in, if there was, in that first point there, if there was a if pending home sales had decrease in the Northeast and Midwest, then that's contributing to some of this other stuff. But the South seems to be doing pretty well overall. And I tell people all the time, I mean, we're seeing I consistently see South Carolina listed in the top 5 of like best places to move in the United States. We looked at one list where Seattle and Columbia was listed on like in the top 10. So yeah, that's good to hear for both of us.
No, it's really great. I'm not shocked. South Carolina is up there. I think I'm a little biased since I talked to you more about it, and you send these amazing, comparisons and whatnot. But I get it. I get where that'd be a very like high demand, kind of like unknown, like state to move to, right? So I love it. That's great, man. Oh, sorry. I'm like, oh yeah, it's me. Very cool. Okay.
All right, time for a bathroom remodel. So we're going to look at we've been consistently talking about things that you can do to your house and the payoff for it. So we thought, hey, let's talk about bathroom remodels. It's something that you can, as we'll see, can be relatively cost effective. You don't necessarily have to bust out the shower and rip up the vanity and all that stuff. There's some
Oh,
things you
okay.
can do that are relatively easy to do that give you a lot of bang for your buck. So next slide there. All right, so I was reading an article on HGTV's website. Um, a I think that says, it's covered up by the logo, but it's I think like a mid level or a like not a full down to the studs type remodel on a bathroom is the number one thing you can do to add/retain value for your home.
Hmm.
So it's a good one that people notice when they walk through your house. If you're looking to sell, or if just if you entertain, people notice when a bathroom has been updated and done well. So we'll just look at some different things that you can do to add value. Some of them might cost a little more, some of them don't cost as much. So but I thought this would be a good list for our folks to as they consider this for themselves. And you can start at the most basic thing that we'll talk about here and work your way up. I'd encourage you to do a checklist. Well, here's all the things I'd like to do. If money wasn't an object, I would do this, this, and this. And just make a list and start low and work your way up. So outdated countertops, how about a vanity upgrade? So you've seen these little cabinet vanities with the sink in them that you can put in. They look
Mm-hmm.
nice, they kind of open up space for the bathroom without, instead of having these like really long vanities, and you'll have like, maybe 2 sinks, maybe consider doing 2 separate of these cabinet style vanities, and then you're freeing up some space for storage or whatever in between. So that's
Okay.
kind of a more modern, a little bit more modern look. I've got like a really long, mine is made of Formica. It looks terrible. But in my master bathroom, I'd love to bust it up and do something different, and add another sink, and that kind of stuff. But that's a little more than what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
Old, is the old tub looking drab? You could reglaze it and give it a like new finish. So you can actually add like instead of busting it out, which would be a little more expensive project, you can actually reglaze them and just kind of give it a little sparkle. I've talked about this before in other rooms, but that fresh paint goes a long way.
Sure
And
does.
that's true, yeah, in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in the any area of the house. Paint really is a good good investment in general. This is one that was kind of interesting, like old shower doors. They can ruin any bathroom. Removing or replacing them will add the illusion of space. So some of them were like really clunky and kind of
Huh.
hard to, but now they've got like those clear glass enclosures that are really nicer and little because those old ones had like this hardware that kind of held them in place, and it looked, and
Yeah.
they all had that like brass trim, just like
I
not
know
really.
exactly what you're talking about.
Well,
Yeah.
now they do like full glass where it's you don't see any of those that brackets or anything like that. So it's just a
Mhm.
nicer, cleaner look. So something like that might be a way for you to update that space and not spend not have to bust out the entire shower. You can just keep that the rest intact, but just update your enclosure.
Mhm.
Um, One that I like a lot is ceramic plank tile. Um, if you use those, it's like a really long, it almost looks like wood. And ceramic plank tile for the floors, like replacing that, like a nice medium gray or something, really looks good in a bathroom. And you can get that stuff at Lowe's if you want to try to tackle that yourself. Or it's probably for a bathroom space. It's not, yeah, really cool looking. Like
That is
it
cool.
looks, yeah, it's got kind of an interesting finish to it. So a box is $50 at Wayfair. So
And
I
you're
don't know
saying
how
for the
much.
floor?
Yeah, put that on the floor.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and just kind of choose your shade for whatever like that one was kind of like a lighter gray, but yeah, choose your shade to kind of work with what your um decor is like in the bathroom. Or we'll see in a second, maybe you just change your decor to match match what you're doing there. Okay, next slide.
Oh, sorry. I was looking
This
for more examples.
Oh, that's cool. Hey,
Yeah.
pull them up if you see something. I saw you could change
I
the
just
color on that.
like that idea. I mean, I like
Yeah,
it's really and tile work isn't like I would say honestly for someone who's a rookie DIYer, tile work's really not that hard.
yeah,
Especially on the floor. It's just I think the worry of it cracking, and
sure,
that's it.
yeah,
But no,
yeah.
that's great, man.
It looks good in the kitchen too. If you do your kitchen with that
Mm,
ceramic plank tile, it really looks good in the kitchen.
cool.
Yeah. Um. So a new mirror is just like a really cheap, inexpensive way to add some pop and freshen up a space. My like back in the 80s and 90s, they had these gigantic mirrors on the wall that
Mhm.
didn't have, they weren't framed or anything. It was just a big piece of glass.
Yeah.
Um, but, you might consider like taking those down and put up some individual, like a nice individual mirror over each sink in your bathroom, just to kind of bring it into this century style.
Mm,
Um, I like this next one a lot. Rehabbing vintage flea market finds to
mm.
add style. So the photo that I used is an example where they did that, where they took it's actually just an old vintage like an antique cabinet that they converted um, to use as a vanity, like a cabinet style vanity, and very clever to put the storage bins underneath that allows you to store things, but also hides the plumbing where you can kind of see through there. So, and then that bowl style sink on top of that really looks sharp. And then they've got subway tile on the shower there. So, yeah, I just thought that was nicely done. Kind of has that, that HGTV Magnolia like Chip
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Joanna Gaines look to it.
Hmm.
Um, and people still, I mean, there's a reason why people flock. You keep trying to, I think people try to get out of a certain style after a while, and the number of people that flock to Waco, Texas to see their place there is still, it's a fascinating how many people will just go to take the pilgrimage to see Chip and Joanna Gaines Magnolia Place out there. So it's still very much in style, and people, when I see a house that's done in that style, they a lot of oohs and ahs when you walk through a house that's well done. Little stuff like replacing light fixtures, or the faucets, or like adjusted the height of your shower, but replacing that stuff could go a long way and add some life. Beadboard, it's kind of like a shiplap or something, but it's just I've seen it where you just go up like half the wall with this beadboard. It's just it's like a panel of wood that has these, it looks like it's individual strips, but it just gives a nice feel to it, kind of still that country kind of style. Um, Chip, Magnolia kind of style to it, just to add some, give a little depth to the room and add a little pop. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah,
Huh.
just kind of go up half the wall with it and then paint the rest a color just to kind of give it a little dimension.
So
Uh,
this like it'd be like it's just a board that's XYZ amount, and you just put it up like with nails or something, or how does that
yeah,
work?
just little finishing nails is all it takes because it's
Ah,
relatively thin and it comes in pretty, what is that, 96-inch
yeah.
sheet?
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so it comes in sheets, and
Hmm.
and then to finish the top, you could put a small, just like a small mold piece of molding at the top
Okay.
to kind of tie it all together.
Man, this is
Um,
great. This is great stuff. I'm really getting into this
taking
part.
notes.
I really am. I'm saving all the tabs on my Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's awesome, man. I'm glad. Yeah, that's what we hope for when we do this. So,
Yeah.
replacing the toilets like that, the
Yeah.
comfort height toilets are really kind of nice, and just
Hmm.
and they've got the ones with the like the minimum like that minimizes the water usage.
Oh.
You can, it's got like two flush buttons, like one for like a light flush and two for a strong, like, so they're a little more eco friendly as well.
Hmm.
um Cabinets for storage, if you want to, putting maybe like a cabinet over the toilet, or maybe like a medicine cabinet style cabinet over the vanity, something like that, or like they did in this photo here where they use these really nice little some type, it looks almost like potato sack or something kind of style, bags that they just numbered and put under the that piece of antique furniture there, the vanity. Just stuff like that. Be creative with stuff like that.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Pull out shelves. Like, I see this a lot. I didn't think about it for the bathroom, but I see this a lot in like kitchens, where you open the cabinet and there's actually a shelf. The shelf is on rollers, and you pull it out so you can really organize that space a lot better.
Hmm.
And are you looking it up now?
I am.
but they actually roll out of the cabinet. So you can roll them out, organize your stuff, roll it back in. The bathroom is a great place to add a set of those. I see it a lot more in like pantries. You know, if you have a cabinet style pantry, pull the shelf out and you've got everything like really well organized in there. They're really,
Okay.
those wood ones are really nice too.
Yeah, those look clean. Wayfair is definitely like the algorithm is stuck to Wayfair. We are not sponsored by Wayfair, I promise you.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but not yet.
Yeah, not yet. We're coming for you, Wayfair. We're coming for you.
This segment, the more you know, is brought to you by Wayfair.
Yeah, exactly.
But I love those for for the
that's great.
kitchen, but also the bathroom. You consider under the cabinet, pull it out, put your cleaning supplies or whatever, and push it back in, or maybe where you've got one cabinet, you could install two to take advantage of that extra space. So
Yeah,
that would free up some more room in your bathroom and make it look a little cleaner in there. So and this stuff just as simple as like a new shower curtain, it just really freshens things up and looks nice if you have that, like a step in type like tub shower or something. Those, a new shower curtain really adds a pop. But all these things like the mirror and your light fixtures and stuff, you're all kind of like working all that together to design a really nice up to date space, and it can make you just feel good going in, a new space and having it freshen it up and get you kind of excited about, hey, we're not looking to move, but we're like you said, not looking to move, but we would like to make this place what we want it to be. And since you have the funds to do that, why not do it? So that's kind of what I was thinking for this week. Just kind of going over none of that stuff was really super expensive,
and it seems and it's simple. It's simple stuff that I think the thing with DIY, at least for me, is like, when I was looking to expand to redo the shower, the one mistake I made was it's smaller by about 2 inches on each side. And if that's the one thing I wish I would have gone back on. However, everything else was like, I was pretty proud of myself. And that's a shower remodel. That stuff, not saying that seems easy to me, but it seems more like if you worry about it, and it also it seems like, oh, I don't like this in 3 years, I can take it off and just repaint or whatever.
Right.
That's, I think, the biggest thing with DIY, especially when it comes to plumbing. Like, I just hire a plumber and just have them do it. But no, that's really informative stuff, obviously, because I was saving all those damn tabs. So good stuff, man.
Yeah. Cool. Good. And then our quote, I thought this was really interesting to put things in perspective, of course, from Warren Buffett, who knows a thing or two about money and investing and all that good stuff. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. So just talking about, you got to start planning. You see the benefit much further down the road, but you got to start planning for your future or someone else's future, your kid's future or whatever. The benefit comes down the road. So
the crazy thing about Warren Buffett, and I know this because I read his books, he's averaged a 37, and this was back in 2012, so I don't know what it is now. It's probably a lot more than that. But when his book came out, he averaged a 37% return every year. That's not a lot. I mean, he didn't start with I think his original firm started with like $35,000. And, regardless of inflation or whatever, a 35% return every year for 40 years. I mean, he's a billionaire. Not saying that you need to get 37% every year, but it's a very small amount to get to a pretty successful, kind of position that he's at. Now, I'm sure there's some other math in there that I missed or something, but I just thought that was a very encouraging stat to someone who's like, oh, I'm never going to be like Warren Buffett. You don't have to be Warren Buffett, but you just have to make consistent inroads every year, and you'll be successful in your investing kind of journey, if you will. So
yeah, encouraging.
Yeah, very encouraging. Well, that's our show for today. We had 11 live at one point, so I want to thank everyone for coming through. Click that like button, tell your friends. I learned a ton today. When you're trying to get ideas for like DIY and like, for homeowners or non-homeowners, what have you, it's always nice to see different eyes and like kind of different perspectives of, oh, I didn't think of that. Like the ceramic tile. I didn't think of ceramic tile before. And then the pull-out shelves. I mean, I could go on, all that good stuff. But it was really informative, man. I really enjoyed your slides today, as I always. But definitely, I was taking way different notes this time than I was before. So,
well, it was probably a well-timed segment, on the heels of you guys owning the family house, and looking to, it's not just what your style is; it's what the missus likes, and so it's good to throw those ideas out there. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. I like yours too, man. It was you wonder how do people get to keep their jobs when there's such a bad track record,
Yeah, the AMC one really like just astounds me. Like, there's so many people that just got suckered into that company, and like if I was a betting man, I should have shorted that stock at $30, like I was telling everyone else to, but I didn't because I don't know, for whatever reason. Sometimes the advice you don't take is your own, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but no, I'm glad you appreciate it. It's just things to like look out for. That if it doesn't make sense, you're probably right. Like trust your own voice. Sometimes, just things to look at when you're investing. So, all right, I guess that's our show for today. Again, thanks everyone for coming through. We'll see you next Wednesday for sure. I'm gonna try and do some more like little short videos for people, maybe some just like whatever, and then in the next coming days. But if y'all have a great rest of your week. I'll be on OTR tomorrow. It'll be a quick show tomorrow, I think, just because we got some people out. But we'll
give us if you've got ideas, hit us up
and
let us know. Like, what do you want to hear? What do you want us to talk about? We would love to. I don't want to talk about things that I come up with. If I'm missing something, or if there's something you really want to hear about, or something you want to hear Ferd talk about, let us know. We're open to that stuff. We like the interaction. We appreciate the I think we'll see how it goes with this the lot doing the Facebook Live simultaneously with the YouTube, and just kind of see how things go. So leave us a comment and hit us up on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube comments or whatever. We would love to talk about the things that you want to hear about.
Yeah, definitely. No, reiterating that. Yeah, for sure. Have a great week. Stay warm, stay cold, stay comfortable out there.
Wherever you are.
Wherever you are. We'll see y'all next week.